Ralston. And to describe that, that's zip code 68127 and 68137. You may be able to relate to where you live and how that all fits. First of all, I do support property tax relief, but I don't believe in the jump and the net will appear philosophy of how you get that. It's easy to take away the taxes and downgrade that revenue source, but you have to come up with the balance of the thing. One of the problems with that happens to be is that we started out with 140 tax exempt items. That is, then a first wave came through and that went to 120. Then another wave, it went to 110, then it went to 19, and it's still up. And I think the last thing that I heard from the governor was he will say, well, I'm going to leave it up to the legislature to decide which ones will win and which ones will lose. And I can guarantee you, if you get 49 state senators in there, or 49 of anybody in a room, and you can agree to something without having a spit fight, then you've had quite a good day. I would like to say this about my district. District 12 is a district that's made up of mostly middle class. We have a lot of apartments, and the issue is there's a belief that the owners of real estate, of apartment houses, will pass down any savings to the tenants, and I say, aha. You know, I don't believe that for a day, and so that impacts the voters that I have, or the citizens that I represent. And my philosophy on representation is community first, party second. So I'm not always in favor with the party, but that's what it is. You know, you got to do what you got to do. I also have a real concern about the consolidation of all schools under the state, K through 12. I work with John Estabrook, who some of you may know as CEO at Methodist. I was hospital administrator. John used to say, don't bite off more than you can chew. So I think when you're talking about taking over all of the schools, we have 244 school districts. You better be real careful about how you do it. And each one is a little bit different. And you also provide no incentive for any consolidation if you're paying for all their operating costs. So it's a cost plus. And we do have to have, a little bit controversial, but we do have to have more school consolidation, particularly in the more rural areas, as long as we don't require the families, in my opinion, to drive more than 20 miles to get a high school student. So there's going to be a lot of controversy. There's going to be multiple bills that will be introduced, and we'll just have to wait and see. Okay, I want to shut up. I have a tendency to talk too much, but I want to shut up so we can hear you. And I don't know whether this is a little off bar, but President Biden has withdrawn from the candidacy. I don't know whether you had heard that or not. So, from some of the drones you had, so you heard it here first. That's Merv.
Thank you. How y'all doing? Thank you all for coming. I'm Senator Terrell McKinney. I represent District 11 in the Legislature, which makes up primarily most of North Omaha. I'm thankful for you all to come out. I'm disappointed that the governor did not have listening sessions in Omaha and in Lincoln, and then also reading through his plan the other day. I was also surprised to see that eating candy and pop was a sin. It really didn't make sense to me, but I'm happy to listen to your concerns and what you think we should do. The things that are on top of my mind is the property taxes and funded education are important issues for us. I feel like we should stop being closed-minded and we should legalize marijuana and fund both. Second, my district has a lot of rentership, so going into this special session, I'm going to be thinking a lot about renters and how can we make sure that whatever we do, it doesn't negatively affect renters even more. Also, I think we should keep local control of our public schools. For two important reasons for me is I just fear just inequitable funding of education going forward if the state takes over, but also in this hyper-polarized political climate, I don't want the state or anybody else making some wild and crazy decisions. And lastly, I think we need to figure out how we're going to decrease our prison population, and we should be building 350 prisons. And with that, I'm giving it to Senator Cavanaugh.
Thank you, Senator Green. And thanks everybody for being here. I appreciate all of the interest, and I want to get to everybody, so I'm not going to say much. Everybody's already said a lot of what I was thinking. So I just hope that we have a respectful and constructive conversation, and that everybody who wants to be heard gets a chance to be heard. And I really appreciate the leadership shown by the senators here and the ones who helped us organize this that aren't able to be here, to make sure that Omaha and then tomorrow Lincoln gets their voice heard while we talk about the serious topic. So thanks.
Thank you to my colleagues for being here. I want to acknowledge some of the people that made this happen who are sitting back here. From Senator DeBoer's office, we have Brian Murray. I'm not going to say anybody else's last name because I just realized that I don't know everybody's last name. So Brian from Senator DeBoer's office, I know. Noah from Senator Wall's office, Dave from Senator John Cavanaugh's office, Tanner from Senator DeKay's office, and very special thank you to Ethan and Margaret from my office who did all of this. And thank you. I'm sorry, it's Turner, not Tanner. I apologize, Turner. I don't know why I said that. So Turner from Senator DeKay's office. Wow, there's a lot of people here. Originally we had 150 seats, so I don't even conceptualize how many people are here. I know we have a lot of people representing city and local government, and I want to make sure that we hear from those individuals as well, but we really want to hear from the people first. So what we're going to do is have people who want to speak line up at this microphone. We are going to try to limit it to 1 to 2 minutes. But before we do, I want you all to know, I should have said that at the end. There are these sheets throughout with a QR code on it. That is a form you can fill out. If you don't get a chance to speak today, please go and fill out this form. I am going to share the entirety of it with my colleagues in the legislature. All 49 senators will be getting all of this. I think we already had over 50 some last time I looked, which was a few days ago. People have filled out, but please fill that out. Now, for those of you that have gotten in line, I'm going to ask that after you're done speaking that you exit this way. If you want to stay and listen, I would encourage you to go to the back so that we can have more people move through. And maybe we can have some people come in and fill in seats if they need to sit, because my grandmother, both of my grandmothers who are no longer living, would kill me if I let anybody over the age of 60 not have a seat if they needed it. So please be sure and take a seat if you need one. And with that, we're going to try and limit it to 1 to 2 minutes. If you go over 2 minutes, I will ask you to stop. But with that, you don't have to spell your name, you don't have to give your address, because this is not a formal hearing, it is a listening session, so please, do you have something?
Can I speak for Megan?
For Megan? Oh, well, yeah, it's Megan. I know Megan's not here because of Microsoft. She was traveling and her travels were way late as so many other people, so Senator Hunt, sorry. So with that, thank you very much, and go ahead.
There you go. Now can you read? Okay. I don't have any prepared comments. First off, I just want to say thank you to my Senator Christy Armendariz for being here today. I appreciate your comments. You're obviously listening to your constituents. I am one of those in Bennington that when I bought my house 7 years ago, I didn't say to myself, wow, I'd be able to afford $600 more a month in property taxes. My income has gone down. I'm picking up a second job. I don't want to have to move my daughter. Not only that, there is no downstairs there. I pay $300,000 for my home, which is a modest 3,000 square feet. And I'd be selling that and turning around and buying another $3,000 home that's 1,200 square feet. I shouldn't be forced to do that. What I'm tired of is seeing my friends and family lose their jobs, but yet government never cuts anything. Cuts need to be made. Government jobs shouldn't be a guarantee. We need to start cutting budgets across the board. Additionally, I would like to point out, as Senator Armendariz stated, we are bleeding out in Bennington. Our school district is the highest levy, and when you talk about spending in education, I call baloney on that. What I want to see is starting to see a split out between what is actually education and what is extracurricular. I read an article recently that we are behind on education, but one of the main differences over in Europe is we don't spend this ridiculous amount on sports and activities. Bennington, for whatever reason, started a tennis team, and we don't have the tennis courts. Our city is small, yet now they want to fork out $10 million for tennis courts. I'm tired of it. I don't want to lose my home because people in the government can't cut budgets, because I completely agree with Chris, that there is waste. Not only that, what are you guys doing about all these articles we're seeing in the news where DHHS and whatever else is paying money out? Either give the our auditor the right to take these jobs away, or what are the repercussions for what is going on? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tim. I live in Sarpy County. I'd like to ask, does anybody else here live in Sarpy County? Raise your hands. Well, we are a screwed group out there in Sarpy County because our valuations go up. Our valuations go up every year. Now, if you live in Douglas County, you have a 5-year span.
Everybody's going up every year.
Once every 5 years,
Please don't
you have to
interrupt
be
a speaker.
revalued.
Sorry, sir. Please be respectful. You don't have to agree or disagree with anyone in here. We want to hear from them. And if you want to speak, you can get in line and you can have your turn to speak. Thank you.
Could you go back a little bit, because we couldn't hear you? You want to start over?
Well, I can start over.
There.
Start the clock over.
I did.
Hi, my name is Tim. I live in Sarpy County. My evaluations go up every year. I started out the house with $290,000 valuation. My valuation now is $580,000. Has the mill levy gone down versus that valuation? No, it hasn't gone down at all. The taxing authorities have not reduced their mill levy in relationship to that increase in valuation. So now I'm paying $12,000 in taxes for the privilege of living there in my house. I would like to ask a real easy way for you to reduce property taxes is to go back to the property tax reduction program that is in effect right now. Bond issues are not included in that calculation that we go through to reduce our taxes. If you would include bond issues, that would be the simplest way to reduce our property taxes. Thank you.
My name is Dave Richardson, and I am a proud resident of Legislative District 9, the Sunshine District. And I'm a retired educator. I taught in the Omaha Public Schools for 20 years. I taught in District 66 for 18 years. I'm a graduate of the Omaha Public Schools, and I'm a graduate of this institution where this session is going on. My concern is with local control of schools. If there is a proposal that would make the state the chief operating officers of the money behind education, I'm afraid we would lose a lot of local control. One thing that particularly comes to my mind is the loss of collective bargaining. Right now, school districts, almost all of the 244 school districts use the process of collective bargaining, which is a time-tested, time-honored, fair way of determining the expenses that a school district will be able to afford and that teachers will feel good about. All the stakeholders are taking part in collective bargaining. The employees, the school boards, and we care a lot about the residents of the school district. We don't want residents who are unhappy with the schools. We don't want residents who want to leave and not have their children educated in whatever district you live in. And I think without collective bargaining, there's very little that school boards, teachers associations, and citizens will have to say about that. And if we really care about our public schools, then I think we ought to care a lot about the process of collective bargaining. I do have one kind of unrelated question, if somebody could answer that at a different time. Procedurally speaking, in this special session, I assume there'll be committee hearings, and will there be public hearings on all of those, and will those have to wait around until there's specific proposals? Thank you for your time.
I'm Elaine Wells, and I'm unfortunately from Texas, but I've been here since 1972 and participating in a lot of things in government. My only concern really is that we not enact a regressive tax, because as probably everyone in this office or in this audience knows, rich people can afford to pay a percentage of their income. If they make $1 million a year, $10,000 is not much to them, it's pocket change. But for a person who makes $10 an hour, a tax on everything they buy is horribly unfair to them. And at one point as a school para, I did make $10 an hour, and I defy anybody to be able to feed a family of 4 on $10 an hour. So a tax on everything that they buy is outrageous. That's all I have to say.
Good afternoon. I'm Alan Seibert. I live at 5537 North 140th Street. We live in a single-family residence. Here.
Put your microphone up so your mouth.
Okay, we'll start. I'm Alan Seibert. I live at 5537 North 140th Street. We live in a single-family residence. Property tax reform does not have to be this complicated. There are problems with the current process that could be addressed without legislative action. For example, we bought our home in 1999. Valuations were virtually unchanged until 2015. I successfully appealed our valuation increase in 2016, after which our valuation didn't change for another 5 years. This has been happening in neighborhoods all over Omaha for years. It should be obvious that this is not uniform or proportionate. And this causes lower collected tax revenues. I've given you only one example of several problems with the current valuation process. If these problems are not addressed, the governor's plan will not stop extreme valuation increases on an individual property basis. If the problems are fixed, it won't cause the revenue problems that the governor's plan caused. Thank you.
My name is Kathy Tolling, and I am a teacher, and I'm currently the president of the Omaha Education Association. I'm here because I have concerns about moving our property tax that goes to our students in our own counties, in our own communities, moving that to a state-run program. We know that students across the state have different needs. Rural areas have different needs than inner city areas. Our communities fund that the way they see fit. Our school boards control our budget for a reason. They are out in the schools, or they should be out in the schools, seeing what's happening, so they know how to fund our schools. I also want you, if you're even thinking about this program, to look at some of our states who have done this same thing. Take a look at Arizona and Oklahoma, who did this very thing and are now trying to figure out how to continue to fund their schools. They're closing schools. Schools are going bankrupt. There's children. We're creating education deserts. We need to think of our children and their education. I also want to remind you that Nebraskans love their public schools. We know this because we've gotten over 200,000 signatures over the past 2 years to recall what the state legislature passed.
That's a tough act to follow. My name is Machaela. I am a former Omaha School Board member of 8 years, a State Board of Education member of 4 years, and a Douglas County Commissioner of 8. I know where the money is buried, and so does everybody else who's been previously elected and served. This is not a new problem. We've got a problem now, though, we're trying to respond to something too little too late. Because there's a lot of good ideas that I'm sure you have and that will hear, but I was told yesterday by a state senator that's not here, that the governor already has the votes. So I almost didn't come because I thought, what's the point if the votes are already there? So I guess I would say, yeah, property taxes are too high, but the answer is to limit spending and not necessarily shift anything. I'm not a big fan of Governor Newsom, but he's got one thing right. They've got a 2% limit on their property tax increase in the state of California. Anything above emergencies, which they carefully defined, has to go to the people. I think that keeps us engaged. It keeps the property taxes close to home, because as soon as you leave the local area and local control, I guarantee you that you are going to lose the rural areas, and it really comes down to government closest to the people is the best. It always is, because you can know that person, you can talk to that person. Right now, what we would be propositioning is 49 people in charge of all education funding across the state, and that frightens me. For the rural people, almost more, because we've got the votes in Omaha and Lincoln. That's not the problem. It's gonna be everybody else who loses. So I guess I'm gonna propose something really different. If you want, the state decides they wanna do this, and we love our unicameral system in Nebraska. I'm gonna say some very sacrilegious things right now. But Nebraska actually does have a two-house system. We have unicameral representatives and our senators, but then we have the lobbyists. They're the second house. And if you have never been down there, folks, that is absolutely true. So if this shifts to the state, what you're gonna have is you're gonna have what the lobbyists want and the state legislature having to respond to that second house. The other piece of the puzzle is, if the state really wants to take over education, and Nebraskans we deserve a bicameral legislature that could actually hash these issues out, have knockdown, drag-out fights, which frankly are worth it when it comes to things like this. And that we actually are in a position where it's a much more transparent process, because I don't know who the people are that the governor has voting, that he says he's got the votes lined up for. I guess the proposed changes really come down to being a lobbyist win. And the process needs to be that you have in place, if you do nothing else, put in a permanent review process that reviews every branch and every department of government on a rotating basis, so that everybody has to get to the bottom of what they're doing. It used to be called zero-based budgeting, and you actually start at zero and you rebuild it. If you did that with every department every 5 years, I think you'd be getting rid of more laws in your passing, because we don't need to do them anymore. And there are other things that we could do and consolidate, and as you mentioned, I think get rid of a lot of wasteful spending, and it is there. But you need people who know where the funding is buried, and there are lots of us out there. We'd be happy to tell you how you used to do it.
Good afternoon. It's nice to see everybody here today. I'm going to start with a little wisdom from my mother on taxes. She always liked to say, it's not how much you pay, but it's how much you have left over. I pay a lot of taxes, but you know what? I have a really nice life because I have enough left over to do a lot of the things I want. But shifting the tax burden from wealthy landowners to people that have very little in a sales tax is not going to solve the problem. What it is going to do, though, it's going to steal local control from schools. It's going to make the poorest and most vulnerable people in our state pay more in taxes. And it also is gonna wind up in a disastrous situation when at some point, guess what? The economy's gonna slow down and sales taxes are gonna plummet. I've been in Nebraska long enough to see this happen multiple times. And so what's gonna happen when we're all dependent upon sales tax for our schools and there's no sales tax coming in or it's greatly reduced? We all know what'll happen. They're not gonna raise taxes on property again. What the legislature's gonna do is they're gonna cut funding to schools. That won't serve us well, and taking money away from schools and taking away local control from schools and not actually solving the property tax problem, which I think we all agree there is a problem, doesn't serve the people in Nebraska well, and it doesn't serve the students well. And if we don't look out for the next generation, we're not serving Nebraska well. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Welsh. Is this working for everybody? Yeah. Closer, yeah.
Walk up. Use your announcer voice.
I will use my outdoor voice. I want to thank Senator John Cavanaugh, my representative, for being here, and all of you senators. It's great that you're all here. Thank you. I wish the governor would be here sometime so we could talk to him. I think my dad might have gone to school with his mom. He had a little different bent on it, that income is the only thing that people can use to pay their taxes. Sales do not pay taxes. Property does not pay taxes. People's income pays taxes. And he was a firm believer. He started out a Republican, he changed to a Democrat years ago. I haven't made that transition yet. I think the Republicans need my help more than the Democrats do. But he was a firm believer that the more you made, the more you were entitled, the more you were able to pay higher taxes. And he believed that until his dying day just a year and a half ago when he was 93 years old. He was a very wise man. I would like to say that you should listen to my brother, Dave Welsh. He's the president of the school board of Milford. He's got great ideas. He's talked with the governor. He's probably talked with most of your staff, if not you, before. Listen to my brother Dave. He's got a lot of wisdom. And it runs in our family. As most of you know, I'm a big proponent of tobacco taxes. I think we need to go back to 1971 tax rate on tobacco. 1971 rate was 37.5%. To get up to 37, but the tax only goes up when you say it goes up. It was last raised Governor Johans. You know, he was in office a long time ago, in 2002. Went up to 64 cents. Since then, the tax rate has gone down. It's the lowest it's ever been in our history. It's now 7.6%. Down from 37.5. It's dropped 30%. Okay, just one other thing. Also need to look at the alcohol taxes. They're, I think, the same way. You need to change it to a percentage of tax instead of just a flat amount, because then every year that the tobacco and alcohol companies make more money, the state makes more money. Thank you. And I've got a handout, I'll just give it.
Good afternoon. My name is Jason Odom, and Omaha's been my home for 15 years. My 3 kids go to Millard Public Schools. I'm here today to stop our pork-bearing governor from swindling our schools. I'm here to stop him and his billionaire bros from picking the pockets of these people to pay their property tax. Why should the young and the landless poor subsidize the ranches and estates of a geriatric gentry? Why don't the billionaires and their bankster buddies pay for their bunkers themselves? We all know when times get tough, those robber barons are gonna bounce. Our money should stay in our community. Our tax dollars should support public services, not prop up private schools. representing us by being here today. Your willingness to speak gave me the courage. Your willingness to listen gave me the courage to speak. So please, take our words with you. You have the energy of these people behind you. You have our message to carry with you. And you have the opportunity to prevent Pillen from pilfering the public purse. He cannot be trusted. Don't let a wolf in pig's clothing fool you.
Joel Wentworth, tip it down. I was born in Omaha. I presently live in LD9. I'm educated by.
Not that hard.
Well, I won't blame this one on what I'm about to say. I'm public school educated. Lifelong. Go Omaha Central 70. But we do have, what we really have is a school funding crisis. The governor calls it a property tax crisis, probably because that's where people feel it the hardest. When they see that property tax increase bill, they feel it. But the underlying trouble is that we have to fund public schools. It's in the Nebraska Constitution. And the traditional way of property taxes has led us gradually, with the years and years of difficulty and changes in value, to where we are. The people who are most vulnerable, as Senator Miranda has pointed out, are those with limited income and the ever-increasing bill. And we're not going to help them by eliminating an entire class of taxation on, for example, ABC Limited Liability Corporation, owned by somebody who doesn't even live in the state, suddenly doesn't have to pay more than half their property taxes. And that have to be picked up somewhere else. Then it's a zero-sum game. So we have to find the best and most equitable way to fund our schools. I think that taking away the school districts, taking away the district's ability to set their own operating budgets would be pretty much tantamount to destroying the districts. They can know those that pay the fiddler call the tune. If you take that authority away from them, they don't really have much reason to be around. I think the only idea that I've come up with on the positive is we should look at it as more like, let's extend a uniform exemption to homeowners at every level and every entity. And if the fictional ABC Corporation gets a $100,000 exemption, I'm not gonna cry. Because the woman next door who's afraid she'd have to be taxed out of her house is gonna get the same exemption, and it could make all the difference in the world to her. So, okay, then my last thought is the governor's single-minded zeal in pursuing his property tax measure reminds me of, because of his football background, of the 1929 UCal player, Wrong Way Regal, who ran 69 yards to the wrong goal line. Governor, you're running the wrong way. You're seeking the wrong goal. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Linda Parker, and I'm a resident of LD6.
This chair's available.
I'm very happy with my representation from my district. As I listened to the opening statements of the senators, I really appreciated Senator Raybould's comments about the Homestead Exemption Act. I spent this morning reading Nebraska laws about homestead exemption, and I looked at the chart that increases the amount of the exemption the more money that you make. I'm a retired librarian, and I can assure you I am not rich. And I don't qualify for an exemption. So I seriously would like to recommend that the senators look at that graduated chart and increase it, because as a single person, I don't qualify. I do support public schools. I'm a graduate of public schools in another state, so I'm not griping about paying school taxes to support our public schools. I feel that's my obligation as a citizen, even though I don't have children. But I do need some tax relief. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Chris Chocolade. I'm a resident here in Douglas County. When I moved here in Douglas County in 2015, the year after, my taxes doubled, 100% increase. And since 2015, my taxes have gone up about 600%. So I dug in a little bit, just trying to figure out, like, why did so many neighbors that I hear have these like big tax increases? If I look at the briefings you guys get, it shows like, okay, overall there's like a 5% increase, or here in Douglas County it might be 11% increase. And so, well, one, I encourage you to look at like the median, like look at what the median is and how many people are seeing a 10, 20, or 50% increase. And I think the numbers might show something a little bit different. The other thing I kind of dug into was TIF, tax increment financing. There's 460 some odd districts here in Douglas County alone. The denominator of that, the base of that denominator really affects your individual home and how much your taxes you're paying. So when I ran numbers, if I look here at OPS district, myself, there's about $30 million last year got diverted out of OPS schools to the largest taxpayers, theory, corporations. And so the people making the most money right now have a 0% tax increase per year under their TIF. And so what I would suggest, there might be some room there to remove education funding out of TIF. That's been done in Iowa, Kansas, California banned TIF for a little bit until they got it under control. If you look at the streetcar district, you think you got a problem now. The streetcar district is going to increase the amount of TIF out of OPS to about $80 million per year. And so you think you got high property taxes now, it's going to be a lot more in the future. So just toss it out there, you got $80 million to play with.
My name is Fred Robertson, and I live in Senator Reipe District in Ralston. And I just want to give a little bit different perspective from a retired person. I understand that my property taxes in Ralston have gone up significantly. I also understand that my house's valuation has actually gone up significantly, which grants me more equity in that home, and which means that all things considered, I may very well be better off with a much higher valued house than what we bought it at and paying some more taxes. I have never begrudged paying taxes for public schools. I am a retired public educator, and I'm proud of that, and I'm proud of the public schools in Ralston. And having substituted in Ralston, I realized that my situation financially is not the situation of most people in the Ralston Public School District. I would say more than 60% of Ralston public students are on free or reduced lunch, and I think that's right. That's right. And so I've learned that I should consider the common good before I make decisions. Not solely my good, but the good of others. And I know that for the good of others, if we make decisions based on trying to get all of what we can get for ourselves, we're going to end up hurting the people who are least empowered and who most deserve our help and our concern and our empathy. And one thing I urge all of you to do in these considerations is to actually consider the common good rather than the lobbyist good or the people who have perhaps the loudest say, but rather the people who most need and deserve a say in their governments. Thank you.
My name is Megan Benoit. I recognize quite a few people here, so I'm glad to see you. And I'm sad to see that my representative isn't here because he represents an area with one of the best school districts in the state and possibly this country, Miller Public Schools. But I'm sure he has an interest in lowering his property taxes while he sends our money to private schools like the one at his church. So I'm not going to pretend that I'm the average Nebraskan. I went to school in a small town in northeast Nebraska. I was a Scott Scholar because Walter Scott recognized the brain drain in this state, and he worked to keep people here. I moved to Atlanta for 8 years, and then I came back about 10 years ago, and I've been here since. And my mom lives in South Dakota, on the border. Why? Because it's cheaper for her to retire there. I really wish you guys could fix that, because I'd like to have my mom a little closer. But here's the thing, I work in tech. I'm sorry, I work in security actually, so I feel bad for all of you. The password is 15 characters long, it's my fault. But I work in tech, I make a lot of money. I'm probably in the top 15% of earners in this state. I can afford to pay the property taxes. Y'all gave me an income tax cut, that's nice. It doesn't help my neighbors, it doesn't help the teachers in my kids' school, it doesn't help everybody in the room, and I want to help everybody in the room. It doesn't help the retirees in my neighborhood. I can afford it. I can afford to pay the income taxes. I can afford to pay the property taxes because I benefit. My kids benefit from all of that. They do. So I lived in Georgia, and here's what they did in Georgia. I live in Cobb County, and other counties in Georgia did this too. They froze your property tax valuation at the value of your house when you purchased it. They also only tax on like 40% of your house's value or something like that. But here's the thing. When your house's value went up, your property taxes stayed the same. You could plan on how much money your property taxes were gonna cost you. And then when the housing market crashed in 2008, and my house lost a lot of value, my taxes went down, which was nice, but it never went above that initial valuation. So whoever bought my house ate that valuation, they paid property taxes on the new valuation of it, but it kept people from being priced out of their neighborhoods. Atlanta is very well known for gentrification. So you have people moving in, they raise the property values, everybody suffers from it. The people who have lived in those communities the longest are hurt the most by those property increases. But under that sort of system, that doesn't happen, because the house is still valued at what it was when they purchased it, and when they sell it, then that person is paying those new property taxes on it. So anyway.
You're at time.
Okay, I'm good, thanks.
Hello, my name is Cole, and I'm from District 11, and I'd like to thank all the members of the unicameral for actually showing up here, even if our good governor would not. I thought myself before today to be someone who was not afraid to speak his mind, but that wasn't until a few minutes ago when for the first time I heard the phrase geriatric gentry uttered. Now, property taxes being too large of a burden on Nebraskans is something we're all here to discuss. I think we can all agree on that. How we address that is why we're really here. I, for myself, would disagree with any new sales tax burdens being imposed on Nebraskans. It reminds me of the phrase, it's expensive to be poor. And this would make it even more expensive to be poor. So I will end by asking two questions, not expecting an answer, just something for everyone to consider. For those on the unicameral who think that wasteful government spending is our avenue into funding these tax cuts, what are the top 3 things where funding is going to get slashed to fund this tax cut? The second question is, considering that the increase in property values caused by inflation are the main driver of this burden, what, if anything, is being considered to address inflation driving factors such as income inequality? That's all I had. Thank you.